Hi everybody, welcome to this episode of Beyond the Label podcast. So today with me is Denise Ho, the founder of Kitdo, this product that we're wearing, and we're gonna share more with you later on. And she is a fashion stylist. So hi Denise.
Hi, so excited to do this. This is actually my first podcast.
Really? That's amazing. Thank you so much for being here.
This is my first ever, so I'm so nervous.
I'm sure you do great because we've had such like good conversations before.
Yeah.
This is my second time meeting Denise, and the first time I heard about her product, I was really in awe of the concept and just really, like inspired by the creativity behind it. So can you tell us a little bit more about what this is? I'm sure like everyone's like wondering.
Basically, this is a restyling accessory. So, but when I say that, people are like, "Oh, what is it?" So, I think I need to sort of show you. So, basically, it's a two-piece accessory piece, and in between it is magnets, so you can stick it together. So, the advantage of that is that you can sandwich fabrics in between. So, I've been a stylist for 18 years, and then what I do realize is, we use a lot of pins, a lot of clips during photo shoot. But the thing is, these kind of tools actually ruin the clothes, especially safety pin,
Right.
So I cannot count the number of times I had ripped samples from using safety pins. So I've always, had that idea of like, why are we still using this, right? So that sort of been planting in my head for quite some time. And then I think it was through the journey of working with different people during my career. So, from styling, I actually became a brand owner of a kids wear brand.
Oh.
Yeah, so I did kids wear for 2 years. But from kids wear, I realized that you start to work the production and do sampling and work with supply chain and things like that. And what I do realize is the amount of wastage that we're creating, especially in kids wear, because you throw away so much clothes.
Yeah.
You grow out of it, and then you have to, either hand me down or you have to get rid of them, right? So I've always been thinking about that sort of guilt at the back, when I was making all these clothes. So that sort of, I think, started my journey in sustainability. Okay. And I started to work with redress. I met Christina, and then she invited me to style the fashion shows. You know how they have the Eco Chic Design Award? I think now it's called Redress Design Award.
So for people who don't know what Redress is, I think it's like it's a platform or a company that recycles.
It's actually an NGO that talks about sustainability. So I think a lot of what they do is an education part, and also they nurture sustainable designers. One thing that they do every year is the Redress Design Award, when they bring in sustainable designers to Hong Kong and get them to compete, and they have a show.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah,
so you were
I was styling.
To do that. Yeah,
I was styling the show. So that was 9 years ago. Yeah, so that was way before sustainability. Yeah, this whole thing sort of became mainstream, I would say. And from Redress, and I actually started another label.
Yes.
That's called Naughty. Did I tell you about Naughty?
What is that?
Naughty. So it's a hand knit brand.
You might have. Okay, tell me again. Yes.
Yeah. So I wanted to create beautiful garments, obviously, but I also wanted to have a really good story behind it. So I brought in these beautiful yarn, biodegradable yarn, and I went to community centers to teach ladies how to knit the pattern that I wanted to create.
Okay.
Yeah. So I went to train them. They're all from low-income families. Have to take care of kids. So knitting for me at night for a few hours actually brought them extra incomes.
For sure.
So I created a collection, and then that collection was selling at Lake Crawford. So for me, that was a little project also that I did. So that was also my experiment of like, oh, why don't I try something new, but still within that fashion industry umbrella, right? Yeah. So from that, I became the creative director of the brand under Redress, the art collective. I don't know whether you know. They started a label basically.
Okay, this is the first time hearing
really?
it. Yeah.
Oh, so they started a label. It's an upcycling label.
Okay.
So I came on board as a creative director, and that's when I really know about all the numbers.
Yeah.
And, you know, like we've flown all the way to Thailand to factory and learn about what their challenges are when it comes to like how to be more sustainable in the supply chain.
Yeah.
And also to learn how to do that in scale. You know, so for example, if you talk about upcycling, you know, you rip all these pieces and then you have to put it back together. Actually, it's very hard to scale. Yeah, it's very hard to make big volumes because it's so labor intensive. You have to rip everything and then put it back together, you know. When you talk to a factory, for them, that's like a nightmare to do.
Because I've heard of this, like, upcycling, like, tote bags and, like, hats and stuff for a while now. Okay, I didn't know it was, like, so complicated behind the scenes.
It is. Imagine, like, you know, you have this garment and you have to rip every single seam and then pull all the thread out.
Okay.
And then clean it up and then put it back together into another piece. Versus, you know, if you make a t-shirt from, like, a roll of fabric, you can just, like, you know, have 100 layers of fabric and then cut everything in one go, right?
Oh.
Yeah, so it's a lot more difficult. So
but it must be so expensive.
It's very expensive. So yeah, that's why people always talk about sustainable fashion. It must be expensive because it is expensive to make.
Yeah, for sure.
So how I started Kitdo is that I just didn't want to make clothes anymore. Yeah, because I think everyone has their own version of talking about sustainability, and I think because of my background and my experience as a stylist, I think my language of sustainability is restyling. So I wanted to create a restyling tool and also talk more about restyling so people can play with their clothes more. Yeah, so I started to do my research, and actually we are only wearing 20% of our own wardrobe.
I'm very guilty of that. I feel like all the girls, you know, like all these memes that like, you have like a wardrobe full of clothes, but you don't know what to wear. Exactly.
Yeah.
And you only have those like very limited like favorite pieces that make you look good. So you want to like wear them again and again.
Yeah.
But yes, restyling. So you want to like to look a little bit different, but you know, still carry like that same style.
Yes, I think it's about like opening up their mind and in terms of like, you know, I could wear this top like this and like this. So I've always encouraged people to try to shop more in their own wardrobe versus, you know, shop at stores, because there's still unlimited potentials on the clothes you already have. So I think that's my language of sustainability.
Well, I love it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And I feel like this is so suitable for like a city lifestyle, because everything like we need is like fast paced, right?
Yes.
And people love, like, they still love branding and like big names and stuff. So I personally do feel like even when talking about like upcycled outfits or like outfits made from certain like biodegradable materials, I mean, from my own circle, it's still not as popular yet. But then if you say, they can wear like their own branded like shirts, but then in a different way, that's so much more acceptable.
Yeah, and it's so much more interesting, right?
For sure.
Like, and I think a lot of people has a misconception of like, you know, fashion is about, you know, wearing this piece or this piece. But I always encourage people, don't let the fashion wear you, right? You should be wearing the clothes and figure out your own way of wearing it. And that's how you discover your personal style. And I think it's also about building that confidence of wearing the clothes that makes you feel good, because that confidence is what makes you look stylish. I think. Yeah, when you're really confident and feel really good about what you wear and the way you stand is just so different versus like, I don't really like my outfit, right? Like so it's little things like that can really improve like how you dress and how you pick better clothes for yourself.
For sure. Like, it's not about how much like the clothes cost, right? It's really about how you carry them and like how you feel in them.
Absolutely. And it's not cool when you just like, I'm so cool because I'm wearing $4,000 t-shirt.
Exactly.
And is great. The material is great, I'm sure, but it doesn't tell me anything,
Yeah. And I know we were just now, like before the interview, we were talking about like, communicating this sustainable idea to more people. So what's the challenge with, promoting this concept? And I know you've won some design awards and you're now like, promoting this product on Instagram. So how's that been going on?
It's been good. Of course, it's challenging, right? Like you said, I'm not gonna lie. It's probably one of the hardest thing I've ever done because Kitdo is not really just an accessory. It's a restyling accessory that is here to change people's mindset of how they see clothes. So it's something that I cannot imagine myself doing alone. So it really relies on like collaboration and then working with great people like you, and kind of utilizing people's platform to spread the word. I mean, I'm just taking it step by step. I'm not saying like, oh, I'm gonna change the world because that's not realistic, right? And I don't think unrealistic goal is gonna get me anywhere. I would rather set like mini goals right now for myself and like so I could like slowly get there.
Can you share what are your goals are in terms of like bringing this topic, like sharing this to more people, or just like how you want to, like what else do you want to do with Kitdo?
What else I want to do? Good question. Right now my mini goals will be like by this end of the year, I would love to do a trade show in Europe. And I think that will be a mini milestone for us for us to bring the product overseas and test it out and speak to as many people as possible. So I think that's like something that I really look forward to. And also we want to expand on the education part.
For sure.
Yeah, so that means like maybe we'll start to work with schools, maybe we will do like, we are doing workshops here and there, but it would be nice to, do a proper course and then make it into part of like, let's say a fashion course or like a fashion styling course, so, or even like a sustainability sort of related subject. I think that's where we can sit also. Yeah.
No, I love that.
Really? Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, because I feel like just starting a brand is not really enough. I think if you really want to, get people to understand, I think I need like all these different routes and tools. Sure. Yeah.
And I want to ask a little bit more about, you becoming a stylist and all the journey that you just mentioned. Yeah. I'm sure a lot of us are wondering, like, what comes before that? Like, because I know fashion is such a competitive and somewhat complicated industry. It's like a lot of people want to go in, but they don't know how to. And I know last time when we talked, like you came from a different time. Like you mentioned, I think like the movie, like Devil Wears Prada.
Oh yes, we discussed that. Yes, I think it goes back to like I think I told you this, but my mom was a buyer for Gaultier, Jean-Paul Gaultier. So from a very young age, I already knew that I wanted to be in fashion because I really looked up to my mom. Yeah. She was very well dressed. We're always in beautiful clothes, and she always bring back, a lot of beautiful clothes back for my dad to try on. And so I've always been very curious about this industry and very fascinated by it. So I think at a very young age, I knew I wanted to be in fashion. So I did the very traditional route. I went to design school and I got a fashion design degree, and I worked in New York for like 2 years. That's when I told you about Devils Wear Prada, because at that time, I think there's a lot of people who were fighting the same job, right? So they were willing to do anything. And I think, that's how people were like, oh, it's like that. Because I had to walk her dog, I had to buy her groceries, I had to do, I was the studio head, so I had to manage just all the production, and I have to cut fabric. I did everything, right? So but that was the best experience I've ever had, because you really learn what studio life is like. And I knew it wasn't a life for me, because I didn't want to stay indoor for 12, 13 hours a day, So I'm more like, I want to be out there and see things, and I'm a very curious person. So So that was the experience that I had that made me feel, okay, this is not for me. So from that, I went to London. Actually, I came back to Hong Kong first, and then, it was a very confused period of time for me because I came back to Hong Kong, I didn't know what to do for like a year,
I know exactly what you mean.
Like, you were just stuck, so, and I think, going to England was a good call because I met a stylist that really taught me everything about, styling. She even took me to Fashion Week, and, it was fun, and I saw the chaos part of it, and she was styling for shows at that time too, so we would do fitting at like 4 a.m. and then the show is like at 7, so just things like that, and, just you really experience the craziness which if you work in Europe and work for someone who is quite important in the industry. And and at that time I remember like we would I was assistant in photo shoot. We'll shoot for like ID magazine, and then we'll shoot one picture in the day.
Wow. All that effort for one picture.
12 hours. It would be a 12-hour shoot, and we only got one shot done because they would shoot in these like big size Polaroids, and then you would need to set up a black room to develop these Polaroids. So it's a very long process to get that developed, and also imagine the cost of that. So they would really think about the lighting and get everything perfect before they press that button. So it's a very different way of shooting. At that time. That's pre-digital. So I saw these two sides, which is very interesting,
What do you think, like, what are like some of the best things, that has like evolved in the fashion industry?
Oh, definitely social media, digital, like I remember when digital first came out for cameras, there was a huge discussion between photographers, like, should we go film, should we go for, digital, and there's always like that kind of trying to find that balance. And so it's interesting to see now everyone's shooting film.
Exactly. Everything's like Y2K.
It's interesting to see, but obviously the way they shoot film is very different when I first started. But social media definitely changed everything, including fast fashion, right? Like everything just suddenly went so much faster. And people were throwing a lot more clothes, and I think when the way that people see fashion has completely changed. And even photography, like editorial, right? Everyone has moved online. I'm sure because you in media. I
mean, I didn't know what it was like before, but it definitely felt very fast. You're right.
I mean, in terms of styling wise, I feel like there are a lot more stylists now. And I think you can call me old school or you can call me, I'm from a different generation, but I still do believe that when your job is work with clothes, it's quite important to learn like how clothes are made, at least understand the fabric, how it flows, and if you pin here and there, like how it's going to drop, because it is still, a job that, is to fine-tune how to make clothes look better on a person. So I think that sort of knowledge is still quite important.
I definitely think so. I personally also feel like since everything's so fast, and like it's so easy to learn something or launch something, sometimes people miss out the first steps.
The process.
Exactly, or like the essential of. So when I was like an event planner before, and I was like doing everything from but making the balloons to like I took like a full course on like baking and like the floor arrangement.
You told me,
exactly. So I feel like that was so essential in like my job as an event planner to understand how everything works. Which I feel is similar to what you're trying to say.
Yes. And I think people these days think they can jump from 1 to 10. But to me personally also that process is the most exciting part, and you're missing out on that process too. So it's not just because you should be learning it, which I think you do, but also that enjoyment. Like even now my brand is not very big yet, but I still remember like how I started and how I sort of came up with the piece. You know, like that process is fun. You know, it was really enjoyable for me for sure.
Yeah. So for the next question, I wanted to ask you actually for some advice, to people who wants to get started in fashion. One, about how can like someone find their own personal style, especially now we have so many stimulations and like mood boards, Pinterest, Instagram. Yeah. And secondly, how can someone, be in fashion more sustainably?
More sustainably.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like what's something like to be aware of, and especially like what we said, like fast fashion, like keeping up with trends.
Yeah.
Like everyone wants to stay on top of like the trends and everything and be popular, but still being aware to be sustainable. Yeah. So two advice for people.
In terms of personal style, I mean, like, one advice that I would give is, I think not just in fashion, I think people these days need to get out of their echo chamber. Yeah, right? Like, I feel like we're always doing the same thing, looking at the same thing, and I think it's very important that you bring out of that echo chamber and see what's out there, and try different things, right? I always think that you should just try as much as possible. Be very, I mean, everyone will say that, but I think it's true. You have to just try. For me, like, to find with that one perfect pair of jeans, I probably have to try like 100.
Yeah.
So you just have to put in the time and put in the effort and just try different things that you think works for you. And I have a personal Pinterest board that I pin stuff that I really like, because sometimes you forget, like, scrolling and everything. You'll be like, oh, that looks good. But if I have a very specific board that I follow, like, if I know, this is an outfit that is good for work, then I'll just pin it. So, I still run into the problem of like waking up early in the morning and I don't know what to wear, and I go to my Pinterest board.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that I know exactly, okay, this is there's a reason why I put this in the board. This is for work, So, yeah, this is something that I would suggest. And I mean, personal style is also a self-discovery of a person that who you are, and it takes time. I would say I just found out my personal style, and I'm a stylist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and don't expect you will be like, okay, this is it. And I think it's something that you need to discover, and you have to be very honest with yourself, and you have to know your body type, and I think that's really important. To know your body type.
I really like this, like, be honest with yourself.
Yes.
I've also, I mean, still right now, like, sometimes you see something looks really good on other people, or that, like, you really want to try out a certain style, but when it's on you, if you don't feel comfortable or you don't feel like it's yourself, then it wouldn't work. However nice it looks. Yeah.
I have a friend who got really into wearing miyaki, like all the pleat stuff, but she's a total pear shape. So if you wear all these Japanese, like,
like straight,
like very straight, it sort of makes her look very wide, like a tube, basically. So and then I just told her, like, you should accentuate your waist, always. And then she got into miyaki because she told me she saw a friend wearing it, and then, like, so she tried it and she found it obviously very comfortable. But I don't think that's enough, right? It really needs to fit your body.
For sure.
And now she is, she learns how to accentuate the waist. She changed her style a little bit. Yeah. And then I find that she feels a lot sexier, once she does that. So just little things like that could really change, like how you, first of all, discover your own personal style, and also figure out a style that makes you feel good.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%.
Yeah. And the second question is sustainable.
Yeah, so advice to like designers or stylists who wants to go into fashion more sustainably, essentially.
I think people who wants to get into fashion, they really, first of all, they have to love it. And I think a lot of people have a misconception of, getting into fashion, say, oh, I want to be in fashion, but without really understanding what it is, you know. For example, people see my work, they're like, oh, so you go shopping all day, you know, you work with celebrities and you shop for them.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, there's only 20% of it, you know, like a lot of it is a lot of laboring work, you know, like dragging on samples and then collecting samples, dropping off samples, and you know, you have to be very organized, and you know, you have to there's a lot of teamwork that you have to learn. And so I think it's definitely not just about shopping. And I think if you want to get into a particular sector in the fashion industry, it's very important that you know, try it out and learn from the best people that you respect, you know. So when I knew that I want to be in fashion, I tried to, you know, do internships here and there, and even though it's just 1 or 2 months, but it should be enough time for you to really figure it out whether this is something that's for you. And I was assisting, like, you know, good designers and good stylists who were willing to teach me, right? So, and I think that's you have to surround yourself with these kind of people.
Do you think it takes like a certain personality to be in fashion?
That's a good question.
Yeah, because I mean, just from listening to what you're sharing, like you need to be very like proactive and to you know, like be very willing to learn humbly and to, you know, sort of like put yourself out there to grab these opportunities to work with others.
I think that sort of reminds me of a lot of freelancers are like that also. And but I think, you know, fashion is also like a lot of other industry, like acting, right? You meet a lot of interesting people, very creative people. I think if you talk about in terms of creative industry, I think it's pretty similar to others. But if you compare it to like a finance, yes, it's very different.
Great. So before we go on to the last question, is there anything additional that you want to share about, you know, just some tips or ideas?
Yeah, we talked about sustainable, right? We haven't covered that part. Sorry.
I forgot about that too, actually.
Sustainable. So if I feel like it's a very strange time for fashion. I feel like, you know, it's so hard to become a designer these days. It's very saturated. Even become a stylist, it's very, very saturated. And you know, there's a lot of different routes that you can become a creative just through, you know, digitally versus like going to proper school and things like that. But I do think whatever decision you make, you have to be very aware that, you know, in this industry, we are not doing things that are not very good for the environment. You have to be 100% aware of that. And then I think when you get into this industry, you have to be mindful about like, am I doing something that's adding to this problem already, or am I going in because I want to do something about it? And I think that's a very important question that you should ask yourself before you go in. Because we cannot afford to have, you know, like any more designers who are making like clothes that people are not keeping for a long time. You know, like we cannot inject more energy into fast fashion for sure. So this is a very, very important thing that we should tell the younger generation for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I just resonate so much because I used to be in events, right? And it was also such a wasteful industry. I mean, obviously there's no clear solution yet, you know, with like decorations, balloons, flowers. But I do think like just keeping that awareness, like first step, it's so important. And like telling your clients like presenting different options. Sure, for you guys as well, like restyling, like upcycle options.
Even in my styling work, I would suggest it to the client to rent other than buying. So I think starting that conversation is very important. Events for sure. It's like sometimes I look at even store displays, right?
Absolutely.
So it's just so much wastage. Just if you go into my bedroom right now, I have like mountains of clothes. I'm doing spring cleaning right now. So it's about how to do it properly, you know, like even though I'm getting rid of clothes, like where is the right way to put it,
Yeah.
where we should put it, like don't put it there and put it here because it's better,
Are you talking about in terms of like donation?
What can you resell, what can you donate, like where you should donating, because there are donation places there don't need any donations anymore. It's not about just dropping it off, right? It's about like, hey, do you need it? If you need it, then I give it to you. You don't, then I give it to someone else. So it's a bit of that.
Just like getting to know like where things like come from and goes out to.
Exactly.
For sure.
We need to reduce waste tremendously. So,
and I think as consumers, we also need to educate ourselves that like what the clothes that we're wearing and like the shops that we shop at.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think educating customers that how clothes are made. Yeah, it's actually like it takes a long time to make a t-shirt.
Yeah,
a shirt.
I was reading this article the other day. It's like it takes like tons and tons and tons of water to make one t-shirt.
Absolutely.
It just sounds so crazy to me,
Yeah.
Because it's so easy, like you can just go online and to press a button to get like a white t-shirt, but it actually takes so much power from the environment to produce that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And and people don't know that. Do you know? You didn't know that, right?
I didn't know that until like last week.
Yeah, we need to. There's a lot more to be done, but step by step.
Yeah. Oh wow! Thank you so much. I mean,
of course,
this is all really useful and new information.
It's important. Yeah, it's important to have this kind of conversation, right?
Yeah. And I think, I mean, for me personally as well, that I'm just starting to learn about sustainability for like, I think since COVID, I think really it's just like realizing like the mask, the plastic, everything was like one use.
Yeah.
And just like even looking at my own pile of trash. Yeah. Like my own pile of trash, it's enormous.
Yeah.
And
then I guess, I don't know about you, but just being like spending so much time on your own to do you some good sometimes.
For sure,
get you to rethink a lot of things. Yeah, it was a very strange period for sure.
For sure. So to end this conversation, so I asked this question to every one of my guests.
Okay.
Can you share with us one thing you love about yourself?
One thing I love about myself is I'm a doer. Yeah, I'm not really like... I don't find myself really good at talking about myself, even though at work I probably, doing podcasts and stuff like that. Yeah, but I'm not one of those people who like to, it's about me, I think I'm more like a doer.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, one recent thing that I did was the exhibition, right? Yeah, and then people are like, oh, how come you didn't tell me that you're doing this?
Yeah.
Because I just don't,
Yeah.
Like,
so backstory, Denise did an exhibition featuring female photographers from Hong Kong and to showcase also the Kitdo products, am I right?
Yeah, we put kiddos here and there, but I think the main idea is to bring in the female photographers to shoot the ladies under Bethune House. So Bethune House is a charity that support migrant workers in Hong Kong. They were under maybe they're under lawsuit or like, they got sick and they got let go by the helpers. There's a lot of, by the employers, there's a lot of stories under that, right? So Bethune House housed these ladies and help them to, if they need a lawyer, if they need a place to stay. So actually under Bethune House, there were 21 ladies. So we're like, okay, let's use these ladies as models. Yeah. And so we invited these photographers to use them as models and create like 21 beautiful images. And then we did an exhibition at Soho House and sold all the images and donate all the money.
That's
to
amazing.
House.
Yeah. You should talk about that.
I know, but I'm just not like, I'm a doer, and I think I guess it makes me a little bit more humble. Like if I don't really talk about myself very much. I don't know. Yeah, but that's a really good question actually.
But I love that. Like whatever makes you feel good and feels confident, and you should just own it.
I just do it. I just do it. Yeah, I think same thing as I think the knitting project also. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So how can the audience find you? Can you share like your Kitdo's Instagram or
Yes.
like any other social media channels?
Yes, Kitdo is, we got an Instagram account, of course, and there are a lot of tutorials in there, so you can watch all of them, and like it teaches you how to use Kitdo, how to restyle it in a different way by using Kitdo, and it's Kitdo_official, and our website is www.kitdo.co.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was wonderful.
Thank you, and we'll see you soon.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. Thank you.